Three great mountains are coming together to flaunt their wealth. The first mountain opens his mouth and it's full of oil. Then he uses the oil to draw himself a mustache. The second mountain reaches in and pulls out a large amount of gold from his mouth. Then he opened his mouth and showed off his big gold teeth. Then he took out a crown and put it on his head. The third mountain was a volcano. It opened its mouth and its belly was filled with hot lava. The other two mountains were curious to see it. The next moment, their faces were blackened by the lava. The hill on the side applauded them, while the three big mountains looked at him with a questioning face. The little hill also reached out his hand at this time and felt around in his stomach, but he only had a tiny seed. Three mountains looked at the seed in their hands and laughed. They began to laugh at the hill for not having anything. Then they threw the seed back at the hill. And the little hill picked up the fallen seed and threw it away with a low self-esteem. And he did so in such a way that the three mountains laughed at him. Soon they raised their hands above their heads and gathered the clouds in the sky. Slowly, they formed a dark cloud. Then the mountains pushed the cloud over the hill, leaving the hill in a mess in the rain. And the mountains began to sleep. But the hill was too depressed to sleep. It imagined in the rain that one day it would be bigger than them, and pour all their wealth into his mouth. But it was all just a fantasy. Then a sound brought him back to his thoughts. It heard the sound and looked over. It found that a small seed had fallen into the water at some point. He reached down and picked up the seed and looked at it with a stupefied look at the seed that he had once held so dear. Suddenly, he was a little upset. The seeds made a beautiful sound as the rain washed over them. Now he was happy. He carefully stroked the seed and slowly put it in his mouth and stored it. Eventually he accepted his mediocrity. Then he fell into a deep sleep in the pouring rain. When he woke up he couldn't wait to check the seeds. He felt around but couldn't find them. Instead, his mouth was full of roots. He was so scared that he shut his mouth. The three mountains started laughing at him again. At that moment, a bunch of small particles suddenly fell down. And in an instant, the three mountains were overwhelmed. And the little seed had already grown into a huge tree. The three mountains looked so small in comparison.